I have a little anniversary coming up. In 5 days, it'll be my 1-year anniversary of being an anti-fractivist. So, because that was when I saw Gasland. I had my doubts about this whole process. Someone in this crowd asked me, now, why did you get into this? And I said, I read a short description of it, and I think it was personal revulsion at the description of fracking. So anyway, Gasland kind of did it for me, sort of holy shamoly, and I had a lot of respect, do have a lot of respect for all of you out there who've been working on this for 2 or 3 years, okay? And while I was just, had my head in the sand and was like, oh, I want somebody else to take care of this, like the Sierra Club or something. But they're not, so it's up to us, and we've had a little bit of success in my neighborhood. So I will speak to you about how to prohibit fracking in your New York town. Okay. Okay, everybody knows this stuff. You've heard it from Chip several times. There's no doubt about it. It's heavy industry. It's pretty nasty. That's a really pretty gross picture there. I don't think that would draw a lot of tourists or people wanting to move into the area. I've been down to Pennsylvania several times, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have. I've got family that live down in State College, so we have the occasion to, when we go visit, go through these little gas lands. And I did get to see a flaring well once, and this was before my awareness was raised sufficiently, and I didn't know what it was, and neither did my husband. We figured it out. I mean, we're not stupid, but it was at night, so it was very dramatic. So we're going by, and I just said, what is that? What is that? I mean, it's not a factory. I mean, looks like a rocket or something. It's like, oh, it's a flaring gas well. It looked really out of place in rural Pennsylvania. Okay, so fracking is unregulated in most towns. Again, if you don't have any land use controls, you're not in good shape here. So most towns don't have a comprehensive plan. That's exactly what the drillers want. It's a great setup, as you know. And so with the lack of those safeguards, it just sort of makes you a sitting duck. So who regulates fracking? Of course, the DEC. And we say they cannot regulate land use. I don't think they're in the business of doing that, and can't regulate road use. And Mr. Northrop here had something to do with this PowerPoint, which probably doesn't surprise anybody. And he made a point that the FAA, of course, can regulate aviation, but they can't just willy-nilly say, well, we're going to put an airport just wherever they want one. So, and again, this whole regulation thing to the industry-associated experts like Mr. Sovas, who does know a lot. I've heard him speak for over an hour about why towns cannot do this, that town of Otsego just did, and the town of Middlefield and the town of Springfield, and your towns are going to go. Yeah, Ulysses, yeah. So I've heard, Kelly also has heard a lot about how we can't, all these reasons why we can't do it, and I just want to say, but I haven't said to him, Mr. Sovas, I just don't believe you, okay? And I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's right. So anyway, that's why we persist. And Kelly and I missed that part of the gas conference today. He was the lead speaker, and I decided to work a little later and sort of lollygag in and stuff, and so we did, and we missed his speech, but we'd heard it. Now, he's a smart guy. I just don't believe what he says. Okay, so prohibited fracking. So see the bottom there, your town here. It can be done. Now, when this slide was made, that wasn't true. We couldn't say that about town of Otsego, but on May 11th, they finally did their vote. They went through all the processes, all the procedures that they had to do, and we did it, and it was a very climactic moment, and they got a standing ovation. And when there was a little break in the action, I went around and shook all the town board members' hands, and one of them said, well, as I had shown up a number of times, like you folks have been doing to your town boards, and one of them said, okay, Julie, so what are you going to do now? Just like that. And I said, you know what, I'm not done. Thank you, I'm not done. Anyway, So, all right, this keeping frackers out of your town, educating your town. We had the opportunity to do that in town of Otsego, had a couple informational meetings in the fall of 2010, and then we started on the, okay, get her done, okay, this winter, from a real sense of urgency. And as a local activist, I didn't see it as my job to figure out how they were supposed to do it. That's their job. Okay, my job was to demonstrate political will, okay, and that's what a lot of you folks are doing. Teresa is she's doing that in a big way. A lot of activists in Otsego County, and hopefully a lot of you here in Chenango County. So, now here's the deal. Get your town board to act or replace them. Well, Town of Otsego's board did act. But here's the thing. I don't think we're quite done. We've signed on with Delta. I don't know if that's sufficient as a little citizen here that's going to be affected by all this junk. Hopefully not. But I don't really understand how it all works. Want to understand it. And I've asked our town board, the supervisor, well, what are the prospects of the town of Otsego getting a good road use plan? And she says, not with this board. They're saying, no more laws. No more laws. We've done enough work. We're done. And I'm being driven by fear here. I don't think we're quite done. So I'm going to run for town board. And I've got a lot to learn. All righty. Yes, that's right. Now you know. Okay. Educate. Presentation by anti-frackers. Yeah, you get people to come to these meetings, and so you start having a network of people that will help you do all this work, because it is a lot of work. This is not rocket science. I just sort of did this, and Middlefield was in the midst of doing this. We weren't really talking to each other. I think we were just bearing down and just doing our thing pretty quickly. I'm not the most organized person in the world. I know there are people who are doing this like better than I did it, but we got it done. And again, it's not that hard. A lot of you are doing, or I hope a lot of you are doing, or will be doing, petitions. Walking them around is certainly a great way to do it. It is a lot of work. Don't kid yourself. Teresa sort of took one for the team the other day via the jaws of a little dog with her walking around activism. But that's one way to do it. Town of Otsego, we did both. We did a walk-around petition and we did a mail-out petition, because I wanted to wake up Cooperstown, and I think we did. And we also did a phone survey, and a phone survey is really your fastest way to demonstrate political will. Okay, you can do it easily in a week's time. You get your list of registered voters, you divvy them up amongst your team, decide what your survey question is going to be, make it really simple, come up with some guidelines. Don't bother people during dinner time, that kind of thing. Don't try to persuade them, be friendly. Hi, my name is, I'm a resident here in Otsego County, if you didn't actually live in the town, and working with the group trying to determine how people feel about fracking. Would you be interested in answering a simple question? And so, if you put it like that, it's not really a big deal. So in maybe it was 9 days, okay, just a little over a week, we talked to 1,159 people. Okay, that was the actual number of phone contacts, all right? 945 indicated, most of them unequivocally, I am opposed to this, or I'm really worried about it, or I do have some significant concerns about this. And a concern, might be, well, gee, if they didn't use all those poisons, well, guess what? They do, okay? Until that's the law of the land, they can't do that. That's one thing about it. One of the things about it doesn't look like a good deal. So, phone survey, you can really demonstrate some political will pretty quickly. And that helped a lot, because I was able to say to the board, it was 81.5% of the people we talked to said we oppose this, or we got serious concerns. And almost to a person, the people helping out with this, and it was over 20 people, 5 or 6 of them work for Brewery Ommegang. which was nice. That helped out. They took a bunch of pages of the voter registration rolls. It's, anyway, almost to a person of the surveyors, they said, man, I hardly got any people that are in favor of this. And they're not just saying their word, they're saying no, they do not want it. So that was the feedback I was getting. So I did present that at a town meeting, and that was a pretty significant statistics. Of the petition, it was, we got between 1,300 and 1,400, which, and again, I've sort of framed this to the town board this way. Was it, every registered voter? Well, there's 2,645, I think. But, think about it. It said, look at this, all these people, and look at the numbers of people that have voted in the last 3 elections. Okay, the presidential election, I think it was like 1,600 people voted, something like that. Before that, it was like 1,100. Another time it was like 1,300. I said, look, we got more people to oppose fracking that even bothered to vote in the last election in this town. I think that's pretty significant. Okie doke. Alrighty, so simple stuff. You just get your registered voters from the Board of Elections. You keep a master copy, divvy it up, have people indicate, how your responses, and tally them. And the thing that I did not do, and if I was doing it all over again, I would do, is basically what Teresa is saying, and what Middlefield did so well, is be more organized about your actually petitioning the whole town. So you make a little check mark when your petition comes in and the phone survey comes in. But it wasn't a perfect process. That's all right. We got it done. The letter, that was a bunch of work, but it was pretty cool, and I've got examples of it. Some of you have seen it. I can certainly email it to you. It's a cover letter, and on the back there's a bullet points, a list of concerns. So it was a very substantive mailing, and we provided a brightly colored postcard for people to mail back. I had a P.O. box that I had established a few months prior for a pledge campaign, pledge not to lease your land. So I had that already. And it allowed people to make comments, and that was pretty cool. The comment part is really cool. I'm not saying you have to do it like that. It was a lot of work. I'm still getting cards. People are saying, oh, by the way, this was like too late for that March meeting, but, I want to be counted. So they'll go into it. They'll go into the database. Okie dokie. When the meeting with supporters, there was a lot of time I was calling people, friends. I mean, like, we're all worried about it, but sometimes you can think, well, I don't have to go because somebody else is going. That's not a good way to think, okay? It's good to energize as many people as possible to come to the meetings. Our town board paid attention to that. Our supervisor was sympathetic to what we were doing, and she said, they pay attention. They see bodies out there, they pay attention. It's not just the numbers you're presenting, but it's a presence, and that's all part of political will as well. And people that, for the very, very few folks who would come to the meetings in Otsego who were pro-fracking, I was ready for somebody to ask me this, question the legitimacy of what I was doing or something. And I never had to defend myself like that in that way, but I wanted to say, look, it's a free country. You go out and you do this work. You can do it. I mean, free speech, you got your opinion. You do your phone survey, okay? You do your petition and show us the results. Nobody paid me to do this. I've got better things to do. I just am really very attached and have a strong vested interest in pure water and air and my lovely home and my lovely town. So there. Anyway, but I never had to say that. So I did have one town board member challenge me on, well, he challenges everybody. He's an interesting fella, the whole community and the town board on how awful government is and that there should be no government. And he would read from the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Federalist Papers and stuff. And I got up and I had my raw data. I had my box, my wooden box with all the little petition cards and stuff. And his name's Carl. And I don't mean to beat up on Carl. He's an interesting guy. But I said, well, Carl, I actually think this is a very credible demonstration of democracy. And I think everybody that has signed these petitions and answered our phone survey saying they were opposed to drilling or very worried about it take as their certain inalienable rights clean water and clean air and the right to determine what kind of town they live in. I think that's a great demonstration of democracy. So he did not believe me, though, but that's okay. Okay. So anyway, there's my contact information. Peg Leon, along with Kelly, she's a major Middlefield neighbor, and they really got going when they had seismic testing in their neighborhood. You know, that was pretty motivating. People's, crockery jiggling around and stuff, and they're like, what the, So they got going. They talked to the town board, and they've done this in a very organized fashion, way more organized than me. Teresa's doing it way more organized than I did with groups. Yeah, they're being way smarter than I was, but that's okay. Kelly has a really simple handout. I've got one that's kind of wordier and parenthetical and all that stuff. If you want to take time and read it, I've got it. I think it's called How to Motivate Your Town or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's along these lines, how to keep fracking out of your town. And Kelly's, or rather Peg's, whatever, it's the Middlefield recipe. And it's only one page, and it's really cool. If y'all haven't heard Lou Allstat, he's really cool too. Consummate gentleman. Okay, all righty. Go get busy. Anything I can do to help anybody, you just let me know. Looks like you got a lot of towns here, so who's going to be the first?